Howard Lutnick ran the Wall Street firm Cantor Fitzgerald for 30 years and made himself a billionaire. Cantor Fitzgerald is a big Wall Street financial firm that started as a broker for bonds and government debt. They act as a middleman between big institutions trading US government bonds. They're also involved in derivatives and real estate deals. Government debt is interest bearing, and the bond market is a giant normalized system of usury on public money. A government bond is basically the government borrowing from private investors and then paying them back huge amounts of interest, usually to fund things like war that taxes are shortfalling. Government bonds are money that makes more money from taxpayers paying interest without doing any work or taking any risk. The state then uses its coercive power to tax the public to honour these coupons to guys like him. Howard Lutnick joined Cantor Fitzgerald in the late 80s, and by 1991 he was the CEO. By 2010, he owned 60% of the firm. Cantor and its spin-offs like BGC handle billions in trades every day. In February 2025, Donald Trump made Howard Lutnick the Commerce Secretary. That is the cabinet minister who controls US trade policy, so tariffs. Lutnick went on TV and said that tariffs would bring in hundreds and hundreds of billions for America. He said they would be so good, people earning $150,000 would not need to pay any income tax. He was the loudest cheerleader of tariffs in the whole administration. He's also in the Epstein files. Before he took the job, he was supposed to sell his stake in Cantor Fitzgerald because of ethics rules. You cannot run trade policy for the country while you own a firm that profits from government debt. This is an obvious conflict of interest. He was supposed to sell everything by May 2025. He did not sell anything until October 2025. And when he did not sell to strangers. He transferred his stake in Cantor Fitzgerald to a trust controlled by his two young sons. These guys are both in their early 20s. Brandon and Kyle. Brandon became the chairman and Kyle became the executive vice chairman of a Wall Street firm in their early 20s. And what did the White House do? They gave him an ethics waiver, a piece of paper from a White House lawyer that says, and I'm going to quote them directly, Lutnick may continue to participate personally and substantially in government business that may have a direct and predictable effect on Cantor Fitzgerald. The rules say you cannot do this. This is unethical. The White House says, do it anyway. So Lutnick spends the year on TV defending tariffs while his young sons are running Cantor Fitzgerald. And in July 2025, Wired magazine obtained a letter from inside the firm. The letter shows that Cantor Fitzgerald was approaching companies that had paid Trump's tariff and offering them a deal. Imagine you're the owner of a small car dealership in Michigan. You import car parts from China where they're made. Because they're not made in America anymore, because Wall Street firms encouraged outsourcing. So you have to order from China, and now these tariffs put an extra $10 million a year onto your bill. You pay it, but you're bleeding money, and you cannot wait possibly years for a court to give you a refund. You're in crisis now. So Cantor Fitzgerald walks in and says, we can give you $2 million today, right now, into your account, cash in hand. But you have to sign a contract that says if a court ever does rule that these tariffs were illegal, Cantor Fitzgerald will keep that refund, not you. That contract is called an assignment of claims. It is a legal way to sell your right to that future money. In America, you could already do this with insurance claims, lawsuit payouts, and debt. But now apparently you can also do it with tariff refunds. So the importer takes $2 million and Cantor Fitzgerald takes a piece of paper that could be worth nothing or could be worth $10 million, depending on how courts go. The Cantor representative told Wired, and again, I'm quoting this directly, we have the capacity to trade up several hundred million of these presently and can likely upsize that in the future to meet potential demand. They also confirmed that they had already done at least one deal worth $10 million back in July, 7 months before the Supreme Court verdict. So while he was on American television telling everybody that tariffs were brilliant, he was secretly betting that the Supreme Court would strike this down. And on the 20th of February 2026, the Supreme Court struck down Trump's tariffs. The ruling said the law that Trump used, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which is a 1977 Cold War statute, does not give the president the power to impose tariffs. That is Congress's power. Always has been. So now, importers have paid an estimated $175 billion in illegal tariffs. And every single one of these importers is now owed a full refund. And every single refund claim that Cantor Fitzgerald bought for 20 cents on the dollar is now worth the full dollar. 2 days after this ruling, Cantor Fitzgerald put out a statement saying it did not seek to profit from tariff refunds. But you told Wired in July that you had the capacity to trade several $100 million in tariff refunds and that you had already completed a $10 million deal. These statements cannot both be true. 25 members of Congress demanded an investigation into Lutnick's conflict of interest. The Commerce Department says Lutnik has complied with his ethics agreement. The ethics agreement that had a waiver that allowed him to continue influencing policy that affected his family firm. The question here is not whether he loopholed enough to make his unethical actions technically legal. The question is, why is this legal at all? Who made it legal that you could write a tax, bet that that tax would fail, and then cash in when it does? What kind of a system is this, and who benefits from having it that way? I think we all know. I think we all know exactly who.